I made $100,000 my first week.
Wow.
Yeah.
Jim Ristuccia is a leadership coach in Vistage Chair who helps CEOs grow their businesses without burning out.
A single dad and award-winning leader, he built a 1,000% growth company while staying present for his family. Now, he guides executives to lead with clarity, purpose, and freedom.
It's really hard to be a leader in this day and age. It's hard enough being a leader, like when you first start out as a business person, and then you throw that all these changes that happened all the time, it becomes really, really hard to figure that out. It's difficult now.
I know CEOs that are scared for their jobs. The CEO of Fiverr, a massive crowdfunding, a lot of their work they do, AI is able to do now. So a lot of the people they have on the Fiverr platform and the Upwork platform, the CEO of Fiverr said, hey, my job's not safe anymore either.
The key is to be authentic. You have to really own what you're trying to say and just say it authentically. Listen to the customer, but don't listen to the customer. Listen to what they want, but don't give them what they're telling you because they don't understand how to deliver on that.
If somebody's watching this, it's a CEO and they have a COO, what are things that the CEO needs to lean into the CEO for?
Inspiring business leaders. Voices that move the world forward.
Welcome to Inspiring Business Leaders. I'm here with the legendary Jim Ristuccia. What is an inspiring business leader these days?
One who's focused on bettering themselves and is a little bit curious. You have to have some curiosity of how to do things better. You know, asking the questions is really important, especially in the time of uncertainty that we have right now and the change and how rapid. You have to be asking a lot of good questions.
Uncertainty is hard to navigate, even for like really driven vision-based people, right? And we are in uncertain times with AI, with tariffs, with all kinds of things. Am I classifying that right?
Oh yeah. The rapidity with how fast things are changing right now is just like, I think it's unprecedented what we do because this technology is moving so fast. The world is moving fast. It's really hard to be a leader in this day and age because of that speed. It's hard enough being a leader. Like when you first start out as a business person, like when you're an employee, everyone tells you what to do. You have these requirements, you just do it. Oh, you're happy, you go home at 5. But as a business owner, you have all these decisions to make. You know, my logo, my business card, my stationery, what the sign looks like. You know, the payroll company, healthcare, is like all these decisions you have to make. And then you throw all these changes that happened all the time, it becomes really, really hard to figure that out. You have to prioritize and it's difficult now.
The last 2 years, I would argue it's been more shifts than maybe ever in history in terms of a 2-year period with the onset of AI. Have you seen AI changing any of the people you're mentoring or working with right now?
I think it's definitely a game changer, but I think we're just at the tip of what's going to happen. It's really the large language models like the ChatGPTs and Claudes. They're really super helpful to do certain tasks. But the game changer is going to be when you have the AI that can help us do tasks. It can take us from one platform to another platform and do ththings for us. And right now it's like, you have to put the prompts in, you get the output, which is great and super helpful for certain tasks. But once you get that, it can do multiple things for you. That's going to be the real game changer.
Jim, from the Navy to a father, I've read your bio, but why don't you tell our audience who you are and what you're about?
I'm definitely the dad. I love being a dad. And I've been a single dad for 10 years. With 2 of my boys, but they're in college now, so it's much easier. I have one of them back with me right now from school, but it's a great experience having gone through that and being there for them and spending the time with them, which is something that I give back to my members, because I can share that experience of actually spending the time with the kids and making sure that they understand that time is really precious and it's very fleeting. Goes on that. But to get to your question, like, who am I? Like, I'm a product of many different things. I'm a product of all the experiences I've had. I started out in the Navy. I was 10 years surface warfare officer, and I was on 2 different ships. I was on a frigate. I was on a destroyer. I worked in the Pentagon, a bunch of different stuff. And then I got out into the civilian world. I got into recruiting, headhunting, did that for 6 years, including 2 with my own business. And then I got into publishing. I did that with my ex-wife for about 10 years. And then I got into the wine gifting business, custom etching, custom labeling, mostly corporate logos, corporate clients. I did that for 10 years. And then I had the opportunity, Vistage came along, and they asked me if I wanted to become a Vistage Chair. And it made a lot of sense for me. It really pulled together all my experiences, where I can pull my business experience, I can pull my management leadership experience from the Navy, and I can help my Vistage members to improve their businesses. And I'm really loving that experience.
Awesome. Yeah, I've heard great things about Vistage, and I also want to get back into that in a little bit. But what was the hardest thing you've been through professionally, and what did you do to solve the problem?
The hardest thing was getting my Vistage group up and going. And that was a recent one. I'm very proud in San Diego. So I'm the first new Vistage group in San Diego since 2018.
Oh, wow.
And there's been a lot of people that have tried to launch groups. It's hard. It's like herding cats because people are like super busy. When you're first starting up a new group, you're selling something that doesn't even exist because I don't have this group yet, but I want you to join, and you got to give up a day of your time, and you do these things, and it costs money, and so it's hard. But you just have to be like super persistent, very dedicated, singularly focused on doing that. It's like I didn't have a plan B. I didn't want to have a plan B. Could have easily had a plan B, but this made a lot of sense for me, and I just stayed on it. And I been successful to this point. I have two groups right now. My original group is about 2.5 years old. I have an emerging leaders group, and I'm building a small business group.
Awesome. So what is Vistage all about?
Vistage is about helping leaders make better decisions. Just decision-making group. A lot of people think it's like networking. It's not networking. You don't need business cards. It's about helping leaders make better decisions so that they have better results in their companies and personally too. So we deal with the whole spectrum of the whole person.
But is networking naturally a byproduct of that then?
It is, in the sense that I have a relationship with the people who are in my group. And if they can help me out, they're going to maybe connect me. But it's not like a traditional chamber of commerce where you have a pocket full of cards on one side and then you put the other guy's cards on your other pocket. You're handing yours out and trying to get other people's. This is more about understanding who the person is, what their business is, who they are. And then they come to the group and say, I have an opportunity to do something. Can you guys help me out with this? How do I do this? And then the group will ask them questions and support them, peeling away the onion to help them understand and see things that they don't see in that. Because we all have blind spots. We all have biases. Yeah. We all have assumptions. So we're pulling away those assumptions and trying to get them to think differently. And that giving that different perspective, seeing it from a different perspective from 12 different or more perspectives just gives you so much insight and so much ability to kind of cut through the clutter and the noise to, oh yeah, I really need to take care of this first before I do this, or I really do need to make this decision quicker, or whatever the end result is. But by going through that filter, you come up with a better decision.
Helpful.
Yes.
Helpful. Better than AI.
I think so.
Hopefully.
Well, Vistage has done research, and they found that Vistage companies are 2.2 times more successful. They grow that much faster than non-member companies.
What's the biggest question or the biggest piece of help or advice that you hear from your members? Is there one thing that keeps coming up meeting after meeting?
Yeah, the two issues are always people and process issues. It's the people issues. It's how do I deal with people? How do I have conversations around people, underperforming people? How do I support them? How do I hire somebody? Or it's the process. It's the and it's usually the lacking of the process, lacking of clear understanding of what you want them to do, what the company wants them to do, what the system in the company wants the employee to do. Because then the employee doesn't perform, and it's always like, well, do they know what you want? Well, kind of. What do you mean kind of? Yeah, I told them. Well, just told them? Or is it written down? Is it clear? Have you trained to that? Have you trained repetitively to that? Do they really understand it? Or are you just telling me that you've told them and they expect that? And oftentimes it's that lack of process, that lack of how you transmit that information, that lack of a training process to reinforce that becomes the problem.
Is there a certain department that comes up most? Is it sales, marketing? Is it finance? Is it product development? Is there a department that is hard to rein in those people?
Yeah, I would say sales is the number one. Everyone always, that's the weak point.
That's the hardest part of the business, I think. I think sales is the hardest part.
Everyone just always wants more sales. That's if only I had more sales.
Qualified leads.
And then if you have more sales, now you have a operational problem because I've sold my product.
Yeah.
But now I got to figure out how to deliver on the product, and then I need to collect money on the product. So it's a downstream challenge with creating more sales as well, which is good problems to have. But the sales always comes up the number one because they're hardest to rein in and put boundaries around because they're those type of people who naturally don't want to have boundaries, and they're really good at selling themselves.
Yeah.
And so it's hard to cut through that of like, are they really performing? And you really have to have good metrics, and you have to have a good support structure around them to help them out and understand how well they're doing. What's their funnel look like? What's their metrics? What's their numbers that they're doing? Are they having problems at any stage? How can I help them? Those are the issues that come up.
Yeah, I mean, I know from my experience, I'm having one of my guys cold call, and it's hard on him. I mean, cold calling is just, and people are rude.
Yeah.
And it's, we're calling mid upper level directors, and it's like, it's even harder, and marketing people, they're the most hit up ever. And it is a challenge to help keep him motivated,
Oh, sure.
and deal with this rejection. But God bless cold callers. I don't know. I think it's the hardest job in business.
It's really, that's what I did in recruiting. We all just did cold calling.
You did this?
I did it. Yeah. When I first got into headhunting out of the Navy, I went from completely socialist system where my healthcare, my retirement, everything was taken care of. And then the next day I walk into a commission only, no healthcare situation.
With kids?
I didn't have kids at that point.
You didn't have kids, okay.
But it was a tough transition to go into that, and you just have to like really lean into it. Mm-hmm. And I made $100,000 my first week.
Wow.
Yes. The very first week I made $100,000. It took me 6 years to realize all the 100,000. But from the people I contacted that very first week, over time, we placed those people, and that was like $100,000.
That's amazing. That's a true success story. Do you remember the script you used?
No.
Yeah. Did you use a script?
Yeah, we had a basic script, but I always found the key is to be authentic. Mm-hmm. You have to really own what you're trying to say and just say it authentically, not try to like read off.
But are you using the same like boilerplate? And then after the boilerplate, are you using and adjusting as you go?
Yes, and it's all about asking like good questions to the person to try to just establish is there a pain point with them that would make sense for them to have a conversation, a bigger conversation after that one.
What drives value in a business? How does a company create value for their customers? Let's say a B2B company. What does value look like in a consulting firm or an agency model? You mentioned you did graphic design, but let's just use my company for example. I'm in production. How does one create value for a customer? What does a customer look for in a partner that's valuable to them?
I think someone who can deliver on what they need. That's essentially, they need some service that you're providing to them, and you just have to deliver that in the time frame that they need it. And if you can just be on target with what they need and exceed their expectations in some way, either getting it to them faster, perhaps cheaper, although I'm not a big fan of cutting the price. I'm a big fan on the quality and the service to provide it. Focus on those things and then get a fair price for what you're doing, not the cheapest price. I don't like to compete on price.
Right.
But I think that delivery is just so important. You can't come up with excuses. You just have to provide what they need.
But is commodity-based pricing is when things, something becomes a commodity. Like in my space, we become a commodity. We were a specialty first, and then we became commodity pricing. And I feel like it's like a race to the bottom, essentially. Yes. Does that happen in businesses and models?
Oh yeah, all the time. Especially when have bad, I wouldn't say bad, immature salespeople, and all they do is compete on price. Oh, I'll just cut the price. And it's like you want to if you take that job at a lower price, you're not allowing yourself to be open to getting a job at a higher price. And of course, you have to the conundrum is you have to subsist and you have to survive. But I would much rather work with partners who are going to value your service that you're providing, the quality of the service you're providing, and that service as far as the time frame and the delivery of that. I would rather work for those type of customers that appreciate what you're doing. You want to work with partners, to the extent that you can be a partner to help them solve problems together. Mm-hmm. You have to deliver exactly what they want, And then then you can open it up to a conversation of like, how else can we work together? What else can we do? And then get in with them and have them see you as somebody who is providing them with other value other than just that commodity. I think that's really important. You have to be able to create that relationship with them so that they see you as a person, they see you as someone who can deliver for them and help them solve problems, as opposed to just providing them with that commodity.
Right. So my mentor said that was consultative sales. Would that be
Yes.
would that be the right term to use?
Yes.
Can you talk more about consultative sales? So what kind of questions would you ask? Let's say you finished a project with the client. What would be some examples that people watching can use to ask consultative questions?
I think one is just on the feedback. Feedback is really important. In the Navy, we always do debriefing on evolutions that we did. What did we do right? What did we do wrong? We call it lessons learned. And that's like one of the first things you do after an event. I used to do that in my wine business. Still while we're like the last day before Christmas at the end of our season, I'd get everyone together and they would all write down what they learned and we would all compare notes. And I would compare notes with my customer and I would have that open the conversation. Hey, what did we do right this season? What did we do wrong this season? And have a conversation on that. And then turn it into them. Like, what's going down the pike for you? What do you have going on? What are your initiatives that you have going on? What can we help you with? What can we provide for you in the next year so that we can plan together? And is there something we can do? This is what we're working on. These are our new products. Does that fit into what you're doing? And would that help you in some way? Keeping the emphasis on them because it's all about them in some way. But how can I help them? How can we better prepared for what they need? Especially when you're providing long lead time type of products. If it's just a quick, service that doesn't take very long, that's easy. But if you're doing like a multi-day event that would have a big hole in your calendar, you need to plan that in advance of like, how do we do that? How can we make this better? You're doing like photography and like shoots, like how could I come up with a better solution for that? The better location, better, lighting, better ambiance, and try to help them. I used to say to my people all the time, listen to the customer, but don't listen to the customer. Listen to what they want, but don't give them what they're telling you because they don't understand how to deliver on that. We know how to deliver and we want to exceed what their expectation is. And if we do just what they think, then we're not going to be able to exceed what they have a preconceived notion and we need to like help them have a better solution than what they even can think about.
Well, that reminds me kind of the features benefit chart, right? Like we're doing the features, we're not communicating that, we're communicating the benefits.
It's a benefit. Yeah. What's in for me? How is it going to affect me? What value am I going to take away from this? How's it going to make me better? How's it going to improve what I'm doing? It's that benefit aspect of it.
Yeah, like for instance, my customers don't care that if I use an Ari or a Red or a Canon, they want more leads and more sales and more business.
Yeah.
That's what they want from the production.
Yeah,
they don't care about the fancy sets and the NYU master grads. They're like, is it going to bring me more sales, right?
Yeah.
And so I think that shift is really important going back to sales. But let me talk about... let me go back to Vistage for a moment. And so you just started this Vistage group in 2018, you said?
I'm the first one. I started in 2022.
2022. Okay. And what kind of people are in the group right now?
So I have a dozen members, all different industries. Vistage is industry agnostic, and we want to have people from multiple industries because you want to have perspectives. People filling different seats in a group. I don't want to have people from the same industry because one, we have to talk about things that are a sensitive nature, finance, people. So we want people to be able to talk freely. So I can't have competitors or people in supply chains in the same room. And but I also want the perspective. I want a lawyer in there. I want an architect in there. I want a software person in there. I want a service person in there because they're going to approach a problem. They're going to see it from their own industry experience, but also their personal experience. Where they've come from differently. And that different perspective is the value you're going to get from being in a room with other Vistage members. And
right now with the current group you have, are you looking to expand it or is 12 the max? How many people could be in one of these groups?
I have about half a dozen more seats in that. I'm going to get to 18 is my goal. So I have about a half dozen more seats to fill.
And who would be the ideal fits for what the current 12 you have? What kind of people are you kind of prospecting and saying, hey, these would be good fits for what I currently have?
Yeah, I would definitely need manufacturing. I don't have manufacturing. Hospitality would be really good because I like that from the service aspect of it. I think getting someone in HR would be really helpful just because we deal with HR issues, or finance, someone in finance background because we deal with money issues. So those would be good types of companies to get into. I don't have anyone in biotech, so that would be helpful too. in those areas. So there's a lot of different openings.
But wait, how'd you get started at Vistage? I don't know if we covered that. I know you told me kind of after it launched up, but did you hear about this this group from somewhere? How did it all get started for you?
They reached out to me and recruited me and said, "Hey, would you be interested in being a Vistage Chair?" And I knew about it from my wine business that I was in. I was the COO. My friend was the president and the owner of the company, and he was in Vistage. So he would always go off to his Vistage meeting every month. And so I went to the meetings with him. I used to participate in the one-to-ones with his Vistage Chair. So I knew what Vistage was. I wish at the time that I had pushed to get into a key group, because you can put your COO into a key group, which is like their C-suite people can be appropriate to be in a key group. So I wish I had done that at that time, because I knew I would have grown so much more. Instead, I was like a little bit isolated in my role. So that would have been helpful. But then I was just I kind of did my thing with the wine, and I was kind of in transition looking for something different. And they reached out to me and recruited me and wanted me to do it. And I'm like, this will be the easiest conversation. Yeah, like sign me up. Let's do it.
Wow. Yeah. But then you said it was one of the hardest things you had to do.
It was really hard. And they were upfront that it was hard. I knew it was hard. And that was okay, because I'd done other hard things. I'd done hard stuff in the Navy. I started my own couple of other businesses, and that was hard too, getting those off the ground. So it was fine. I knew it was going to be challenging, but it's also super rewarding. And I love basically just have conversations with people about their businesses. And then you just provide them with perspective on how can we do things better, differently, see things. And I love having the light bulb moment when my member oh my God, I didn't think about that. That's a great thing. And all of a sudden they can just see it a little differently. Now they're looking at it from a different perspective, a different filter. And then now they can make different choices. Now they have a choice, because before they were just seeing it one way, but now I see a different way, and I can make a choice to make a better decision.
Awesome. Let's talk about values that help drive business right now. It could be things like discipline, consistency, innovation. What are you seeing as value drivers for your members or society right now? Are there certain values that you see are making people more successful in this day and age?
Obviously, taking care of the customer and being customer focused is really, really important. And I see that with my members who can, on that, we're having conversations because we're talking about creating the value for the customer, because that's ultimately who's going to pay you, because you need to you're going to get your profit from your customer because you're providing a service to them or a product. And I think those type of situations are, but it's internally in the companies, it's the consistency, I think, is really the key. And I see there's a disconnect between especially when you get to small companies, which is the profile for a lot of San Diego companies. It's small, medium-sized businesses. We don't have the large, big companies, a lot of them in San Diego. But you get the founder, and they're usually typically the visionary. And they're the ones who have all the ideas, and they're shooting ideas off left and right, but they're usually not, that same type of person is usually not the detail person. And so the company's growing, and you get to different plateaus, and you can bust through them depending on, at different stages, but then it's how do you deliver on what your promise is, and how do you have consistency in that? And the key for that is to have processes and systems and I'm biased because I was a COO, I was a chief operating officer, so I come from the detail aspect, because that's where I got from the Navy. That's what I'm really good at, those details, making the trains run on time. So in the company, but I think that's a real area of value for companies to latch onto, is to get somebody to make sure that the trains can run on time and have everything running, because the consistency provides safety and security for the employees, because then they'll know what to expect. It's going to be a psychologically safe environment when they know what to expect in the company, because they'll know, if what they need to deliver, how they need to deliver it. It's not just shooting from the hip. It's not, oh, you do this now, or this person does it a different time. No, it's consistent on who does what. Chain of command from my Navy background is really clear. I think that makes it easier, and it makes it more fun experience. That's what I brought to my last company when I was doing the wine gifting. I increased that company 10x during the time I was there.
Wow.
And in 2015, 10 years ago, I became a single dad. So I became a single dad. I had 2 kids, one in elementary school, one in middle school. I was living in Encinitas. My business was in Barrio Logan, so I'm driving to Barrio Logan every day. And then I had to drive up to Carlsbad because they were in La Costa Canyon High School, or in that area, getting them to school in that area, and going to sports and club sports and lacrosse and football and basketball and all that stuff and scouts and running back and forth. But so I couldn't do it all. So I had to leave work at like 3:30 every day or 4 o'clock to get them to pick them up from school and to do those things. And like, well, what do you do with your business? It's like, well, I just lean into the stuff that I did in the Navy. It's like, you got to have a clear chain of command. This is what your responsibility is. You do it. I'm expecting you to do it. How do you need help? Do you need support? What do you need? Okay, you got everything. You do it. I expect you to do it. Now I'm going home. I'm not looking over your shoulder. I'm not micromanaging you. And like, you have to provide to me when you need to, deliver. And then my people thrived on that because they were empowered to do their job. I got out of their way. We made sure they had the right support. And then we were like super successful. And then the company had like 40% year over year growth, grew 10x. We garnered all these awards in the industry. We got 13 Pyramid Awards, which in the promotional products industry is the equivalent to like the Academy Awards. And we were getting more awards than any other company. Like we were competing against $100 million, $200 million companies in promotional products industry.
Wow.
And we're getting the most awards in the whole conference.
Well, why? Well, I got a question. Why?
It was awards on quality, it was awards on service, and it was awards on innovation, on the creativity for the products. That's what we were getting for. And we just we leaned into that. I supported my people. I allowed them to be creative. On the bottle designs, on our catalogs, on how we would put together things for the customers so that they were like wowed, that wow factor. And people recognized that, and people really liked the product that we had. We had over 150 5-star reviews for our B2C division, and no 4-star, no 3-star, no other. There were like 150 5-star reviews because everyone just liked our product, which is kind of unheard of. It's hard to believe that, but at the time that's where we were at.
It's very interesting hearing from more of a COO perspective because you're the first COO type minded. Everybody else has been CEOs on Inspiring Business Leaders. So this is fascinating. This is a different viewpoint than we're used to hearing here, and I love it. If somebody's watching this, it's a CEO and they have a COO, what have you noticed in that relationship in your businesses from the CEO to the COO? What are things that the CEO needs to lean into the CEO for, or what do you see that the CEO really can do to help the CEO better? What's the relationship dynamics look like?
Yeah, I'm really a big believer in this. That Gino Wickman has a book called Rocket Fuel, and I think that's a really apt name for it. When you get the CEO or the visionary working with the integrator, the COO. So you have one who's detail oriented, gets the training on time. The other one is the front facing person of the company, the big idea person, thinking about the future. And if they can both stay in their lanes and support each other, that's the rocket fuel when the company can really take off. Because it's like two heads, two parts of the same Godhead for the company that needs to work. It goes back to my Navy days because you have a CO, the commanding officer, and you have an XO, the executive officer. And on the ship, it's super clear. It's like the CO deals with everything off the ship. He's the front-facing person, deals off the ship, and the XO takes care of everything inside the skin of the ship. And if it's like the schedule or maintenance or cleanliness, it's the XO's problem, and the CO dealing with the admirals and the commodore and the staff off the ship. And the CO comes in at 9:30 in the morning. He's the last person to show up, and he leaves at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. He's the first person to leave. That's how it should be. And then the XO takes care of everything, and the XO empowers the department heads, and the department heads run their departments. And everything works really simple.
Wow. I wish I had a brain like yours. That's amazing. That's amazing.
That system works, and if you bring that to into a company where you have the visionary and the integrator, the CO, the XO, and then you have department heads, and then the integrator just runs the departments. You have finance, you have sales, you have marketing, operations, maybe IT, and just those people run their departments and are responsible for the things in their departments, and everything's clearly delineated of who owns what. It becomes easier.
Would you say you're a patient person?
I say, yeah, definitely now. I wasn't when I was younger, but when you have kids and you've gone through that, you have to be patient. It takes a time. It takes a while. It took me 10 years to get the company up to speed, training them and doing things consistently over year, like implementing a new performance review system. It took me 3 or 4 years before people, oh yeah, now I get it. This is what I got to do. This is how I got to fill it out. Okay, now I understand. It's not an overnight type of thing. Using the naval analogy, it takes a long time to steer the ship.
Yeah.
It happens very slowly. It doesn't happen super fast.
Yeah, well, I feel like the inpatient or the CEO or more inpatient people and the CEOs have to practice a lot more patience dealing with the CEOs and the people below them and the people, the CEO may be more of a partner, maybe, steering the ship. But I imagine CEO patience would be a huge virtue you would look for in that role.
Oh, you need that. And you need the patience because you need to be thinking strategically and long term. The only person in the company who's looking at something really long term is going to be the CEO or the president or the owner. Because that's their job. Their job is to look way down the road, to be that innovative, to look at AI and how can I integrate AI into my company? How can I spend time with AI to figure out what makes sense for my company? Even if I'm not doing it right now, but like, how am I going to do that? Because my competitors are going to do it. So I got to think about that because no one else in the company is that's not on their plate to do that. So they need to be thinking about long term. And if they're stuck running the company by their inbox and doing tactical things, then they're not thinking strategically. They're not thinking long term, and then no one's minding the store.
So what are this is a good point because I've heard about this, and I'm a victim of it. I'm going to be honest. So please educate me. I'm checking my inbox all the time, but I know there's other tasks I need to be doing. So what should I be doing or other CEOs be doing instead of looking at their inbox?
Besides joining Vistage?
Besides joining Vistage, yeah, you heard that. Join Vistage. But besides joining Vistage, how do they need to be managing their time? What should they be doing on their time blocking that's good for the company?
Well, first they need to have a job description. So they need to write their own job description. And I would surmise that most CEOs, most business owners have not written their own job description or not been involved in their job description. They don't have one. So they need to write their job description because there's like core things that they need to focus on. So a business owner, CEO needs to focus on the vision for the company. They need to focus on the people that they're bringing into the company, the culture of the company, and then just hitting their numbers. Those are the 4 core things that the CEO needs to do. And they're the ones who are driving all those. And if they're not driving those 4, then no one else is driving them. And they don't necessarily have to do all those things, but they're the ones who need to be like thinking about, are we doing a good job? Are these people taking care of it? Like, how do I need to get involved or provide coaching or support in these areas to make sure that those things are really running? Because if you have a good vision, if you hire the right people to execute on your vision, if you have a culture where everyone's working together to accomplish that vision and you're hitting your numbers, you're going to have a really successful company.
Yeah. Well, a lot's changed. I mean, I started in content 18 years ago, right when YouTube started, right? And innovation in AI has changed my vision that I've had for, I was going to keep this vision. I have mentored so many interns and young people that 7 years ago, they started out in social media like, oh, I want to shoot video and photo. Now AI is doing a lot of this stuff.
Yeah. You can just create your own video on AI.
Yeah, but who are you going to sell it to when the company can create it? I mean, and it's not just video production. It's data analysts. It's software engineers. There is, we talk about these evolutions of society like the Industrial Revolution, the printing press, whatever it may be. Those affected things like manufacturing, transcribing, mass transcribing things, even the radio and the television, like these massive innovations, electricity, but nothing like AI. I mean, AI has the potential to replace half the jobs in the world potentially.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's huge.
Absolutely.
But we don't know what the effects are quite yet. This is 2 years old.
That's why we're just kind of, it's been around a lot longer than that.
It has been.
It just had different names and it was,
right.
It was machine learning but now we're really seeing that in like the large language models that are out there. But again, I feel like once it can start doing tasks for us, it can go cross platform. It can take a business card and take a picture of it and it can input it into my CRM and it can send an email. Right. Because I can set something up like that. Hey, thanks so much. It would know that I went to look at my calendar and it could know that I went to an event yesterday and I got this at the event and I'm going to send an email referencing that it was so nice to meet you at that event. I mean, there are literally now on the Google that you can go to a website and Google creates a podcast from 2 people talking about a topic, which is just absolutely crazy. And you don't even have to listen to the podcast anymore. You can just get the transcript and get a summary of that. Yeah. Just like you can have it look at a video, you can create a movie, and you can just have an AI bot like look at the movie and give you a summary of what the movie is. Like it's like crazy all this stuff.
I mean, there's pluses and minuses to that though. We grew up in the age of schlepping. We were schleppers at one point where we had to do monotonous
Manual
tasks.
typewriter. I had a manual typewriter when I
Right,
was in
but
college.
that schlepping has some value. The kids aren't going to have to do that. I mean, that affects how the brain is exercised, doesn't it, to an extent?
Yeah, absolutely. Critical thinking skills.
Yeah, critical thinking skills, creative thinking skills. I mean, prompting is only so creative. It only works the brain so much. And because we have that experience, we have a great fundamental. But kids, when you're younger, I mean, let's be honest. It could have. It already is. Actually, I read an article from Yale, Harvard, Stanford. All of these students, they're not doing what we used to do when we were in college. They're literally just prompting AI. I can prompt AI and say, "Hey, write me a thesis on Carl Jung's, way of looking at psychology and how it's different than Sigmund Freud." That didn't mean I did the research just because I prompted AI and told it to spit me out a paper.
Exactly.
That's a problem.
That is a
for
problem.
learning.
Yeah, if you're not critically thinking and you don't know how to research things, you don't know how to discern what is real and what's not real and what's good quote or material or bad material or sources. Look at that. When I'm on the internet, I always look at the source. I always look what's the website the information is coming to. I don't think that the younger generation understands like where the sources
Citing
coming
sources,
from.
yeah,
Where the
which is
sources. I look for something that's like more authoritative. I look for something that's like not the sponsor because they're paying for me to see that information. So I try to drill down, but I don't. Yeah, that's a challenge. AI can potentially, once it's trained better, provided with better information in the future.
Yeah.
But we do have tremendous access to a tremendous amount of information now, and the creative energy to do that. It's just like.
But without the schlepping, without move it or lose it, I think of physical exercise, like using the brain for some of these monotonous tasks, I think there's still value in that. And I say, hey, what if 5 years from now, I don't use AI? But I'm one of the few people that doesn't. But they're having problems because everybody else is using AI, and now AI is iterating the same stuff because it has no more new human innovation and creativity. All it's done is iterate on its code for the last 10 years. Uh-oh, where's all the new ideas?
That's going to be a big challenge because you also.
We're already there, though, in some aspects I've read.
You need to protect people on intellectual property as well, because if you're taking pictures and putting pictures up and these bots are scraping and looking at your picture, your photography, your creativity, and they're stealing your idea of like how you present that information and they're using it to create other images, that's like not fair to you.
Right.
Because you've created that. That's your work went into that, and so that's a challenge.
But why not some guardrails on it? When the phone came out in 2003 or 4, whatever, there wasn't a manual. They just gave us a phone. They put games on it. We used to text, right? The Motorola Razr, and then the BlackBerry came out, and then the iPhone came out, maybe early 2000s. But they didn't tell us when we were that age, and people went ballistic. It was all of a sudden we started using the phone all the time, and then social media came out, and then we used the phone even more. No guardrails for social media. And
we're always on our phone all the time. Like
the young people are having problems. Let me give you an example of a problem. The neck, the physiological neck. I know 3 chiropractors. They go, you won't believe how 20-year-olds' necks look right now and shoulders. They said they look like 60 to 70-year-olds, a lot of them.
and inactivity. Because
Is that not a problem?
Yeah.
I mean, when I have 3 chiropractors saying, you wouldn't believe what I see. And they say, I see it all day, every day. You wouldn't believe it. I used to have 40, 50, 60-year-olds come in. I have teens and 20s coming in with degenerative neck and spine issues. But there's no guardrails to this technology. It's like the people in power that innovate and do this, do they even care about us? Or do they just want to keep building and making money and have power and control? And I just wonder, where is the human connection in this? Is it capitalism at its finest? Is it just innovate, make money, and be powerful? Or care about the people of the world?
I wish more people cared, but I think personally, my opinion is that it's all about the money.
Exactly. And power, maybe.
And power.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's scary. For your kids, I mean, I don't have any kids, so I don't really care so much. But I mean, for your kids, do you care a little bit about their future?
Absolutely. Oh, yeah. And I try to get them off it as much as I can.
Yeah.
I try to do activities as much as I can with them, so to get them away from it. But it's very addictive, and it's like you're on it too much.
Right. And I mean, I think AI is great. Don't get me wrong. I think it can do a lot of things great. I think we're careless with this stuff, in my opinion. Like if this replaces even a tenth of the jobs in the world, which I'm sure it can do a lot more than that. In fact, I think to not cause mass hysteria, a lot of companies haven't implemented AI as much as they can. I mean, otherwise the world would just be in panic right now. I mean, it'd be a problem. I see the unemployment rate going up to 10% in the next 5 years. I see people people in college are really confused. They're like, what do I study?
Sure.
The people that had the software degree or the data analysis degree, you can make 500,000 to $1 million being a data analyst. Well, can AI do data analysis better than any human?
Yeah, those entry level positions were like doing the grunt work, but that's the entry level is they're getting into the pyramid of getting to the top. And if you don't get people at the lower level learning the trade, learning the business, they're not going to progress up. But then the AI, the promise is, it can do that little grunt work. So the college kids, unfortunately, they're going to get screwed.
Right, and there's only so many people at the top. If you have one master prompter that's taking the job of 1,000 people, what are those 1,000 people going to do? Everybody's like, oh, well, be the person that builds the robots. Well, what about when the robots can build the robots? What about when the prompting can do the prompts? Yeah. What about when the AI agents don't need you anymore? I mean, I know CEOs that are scared for their jobs. The CEO of Fiverr, a massive crowdfunding, that a lot of their work they do, AI is able to do now. So a lot of the people they have on the Fiverr platform and the Upwork platform, the CEO of Fiverr said, hey, my job's not safe anymore either. That's a big statement.
It's a little above my pay grade dealing with this stuff. I still think that there's going to be a role for leadership. And I think the leadership is really, really key. Because you're still going to have people involved in the equation. Even if they're using AI, most likely they're going to be using AI to a great extent. But how do you get, manage those people? How do you lead those people in this point of change? So there's going to be disruption and, jobs are going to go away. But how do I assuage the people that are still there? How do I make them feel safe? And that's an AI bot's not going to make them feel safe. A person is going to be there to have empathy and to make them feel safe. And that person is going to lead them to do bigger and better things in that company.
But it sounds like what we're doing is we're gutting out middle management then. I mean, if those leaders are able to arbitrage a system where they don't need the middle management people anymore, and it's just leaders and it's just peasants.
I still think there's going to be a hierarchy, and I think you still need the middle managers because you need people to come up to the upper levels of the organization, and those bottom level people feed into that. It goes back to my Navy days. So like officer on a ship, like I was a division officer on the ship, didn't need me because I had a chief that really was doing the job because I wasn't like,
good way of looking at it.
I wasn't capable. I got in a situation where I was in charge of 15 people and I was the least competent person in that micro organization. But my job is to learn how to become the CEO of the ship. That was my job. As the officers, your job is to learn how to become a senior leader. And so these organizations still need people at the lower levels to be able to move on up. And if the companies don't recognize that, then they're going to be in for a problem when they're looking for people to be in the middle to organize things.
I hope that role still remains. We'll see. But what are you most excited about the future of AI? I mean, is it solving diseases? Is it world hunger? I mean, is there something that you say, hey, I hope AI does this thing really well?
I think if it can replace repetitive tasks, I think that's really good. We're seeing that with like robotics, manufacturing. We've seen that for a long time. But then if it can learn how to do certain things, can learn how to do these tasks repetitively, to take some of these like data entry things off, that'd be like super helpful. We all like companies all have bookkeepers because they all take your receipts and they scan into your system. But if you could have a way to just like put it into a box and then have it magically all show up exactly where it needs to be without a bookkeeper having to do it, that would be like really helpful. Right. Now what do I do with that bookkeeper?
Yeah, exactly.
I have to take that person, and that person has to get upskilled and do something else. That would be maybe become the accountant and look at those things maybe more critically than just doing the mundane tasks.
Do you think though there's an intellectual discrimination in people? I'm not saying not to be rude. I'm just saying, are some people have the capacity to be a prompt master and other people might not?
Absolutely.
I mean, is that going to create a gap? I mean, I'm sure there's people that are going to still need to build your house, do all, the construction stuff maybe. There's going to be some of those jobs, but I just think that I don't know what it's going to replace. I just think that there are people that aren't as gifted. Everybody's like, well, just skill up. Like you said, just skill up. Not everybody has that intellectual capacity to do that.
They don't.
No.
So then they need to transition to something where it's going to be human type of connection.
Yeah.
Where it's going to take that type of person.
Right. But they're even talking about robots replacing partners. I have an AI expert that said by 2048, more humans will be having sex with robots than other humans.
It's possible.
They're already prototyping that.
Yeah, that's beyond my pay grade to figure that out.
Well, it is, but I mean, if that happens,
Yeah.
let's just say that's crazy. That's just something crazy I heard. I don't know if it's true.
The
but-
isolation, I think, as we get more and more technology, the technology isolates us. They talk about connectivity and social media, but we become more and more isolated.
Yeah.
Which is we're Vistage. One of the advantages of a community of getting together in person, where we do once a month. That's creates relief from that isolation, especially for the CEO, because their job is so hard. So it relieves that pressure for one day they can just be a member and not the leader. They don't have to be the go-to person.
Yeah.
And I think more and more people are going to gravitate toward those type of connections in some way, in some sort of community connection. It could be a work-related connection or just community to have human humor contact, because that's and having discussions and conversations and playing games and doing those sort of things is really, really important instead of getting away from the isolation.
Yeah, what a great, that's such a great group. The CEO I worked for in 2005, she was part of Vistage, and she would always come back. I was her executive assistant.
Okay.
And I'd have to work through the notes that she learned there to help her run her business better. So I grew up with Vistage for many years and seeing what it did for her. And it helped her build her business from about $8 million a year to $12 million a year.
Oh, that's
And
a great success story then.
It's a great success story. Yeah, it was La Jolla Spa MD in La Jolla, and she would just bring back the most. It was really cool to see that. Yeah, so I know firsthand that Vistage is amazing. I want to switch to you a little bit and a few personal development tips for people watching, whether they're a senior leader or maybe they're younger and they're starting out. Jim, talk to me about. I wanted to go back to discipline for a minute. Consistent discipline in your life, or how you advise others. How do you live the good life through consistent discipline? What does that look like on your calendar or your day-to-day?
Well, blocking time out for the different tasks and setting aside time is really important. So yoga is really important to me to take care of myself, especially now that I'm older. So in the past, I would work more than I would take care of myself. And now kids are out of the house. So now I'm taking care of myself more. So I block time for yoga to do that. I make sure to do it 3 times a week. Scheduling my business things to be consistent on those, scheduling meetings, making sure that once I have a meeting with somebody, I'll always schedule the next meeting. When are we going to get together again? So it makes it easier rather than playing the tail chase of trying to do the scheduling, because we waste a lot of time on scheduling, which is an area AI can help us out in. Just being focused on what your priorities are and prioritizing. I work with my members a lot on setting those priorities and figuring out what their real priorities are. Because you can't accomplish a gazillion tasks. You can only accomplish a couple of things. Bill Gates says you overestimate what you can get done in 1 year, but you underestimate what you can get done in 10 years. So the CEO needs to have that long-term vision for the 10-year thing, and you just have to give yourself grace for what you're going to accomplish in the short term. Because there's a lot on your plate, and you just got to prioritize those 1 or 2, 3 things. Not more than that, because if you try to have 10 things on your plate, you're not going to get them all done.
What's a weakness that you see in that area of consistent discipline for a lot of people, business leaders, maybe at Vistage or otherwise? Where do people fail?
Shiny object syndrome.
Yeah.
Something comes up
Guilty.
and shows up and oh, I get distracted on this. Let me go into this rabbit hole, which doesn't have to do with what your priorities are. And if you really stay on your priorities, that's helpful. One of my members today, we use the VTO, the Vision Traction Organizer from EOS, the Entrepreneurial Operating System.
Yeah.
It's not a requirement. I like it's the VTO is a 2-page business plan. 1 sheet of paper. This is my whole business plan on 1 sheet. It's instead of really being really dense. So I introduced that to my new member, and he had it halfway filled out today, and he had his rocks, which is his 90-day goals. And I said, there's a pinpoint in it, and I have it right above my desk. And now I look at this and I look at what my priorities are, and I make sure that the things I'm doing are aligned with my priorities. That was what he told me. And he was he's a 3-month member, so he's brand new. And, so that was a win, because there's the light bulb coming on for him. Oh yeah, I'm doing that. I'm posting it, and I'm making my activities in alignment with what my goals are.
Right. And then you benchmark that. You have your KPIs or your benchmarks. But so let's say you have a 10-year plan. You break that to 5 years, 3 years, 1 year, quarterly, monthly. Do you get down to weekly and daily too?
Yeah, of course. You have to break down what you want to accomplish. What am I going to accomplish this week? I know a lot of people, I don't do it, but I know some people will take Sunday evening, they'll take like an hour, half an hour, and they'll plan out their week. Or you could do it Friday afternoon before the next week. I have a lot of my things consistently planned. So I have like a lot of recurring meetings. I have that, and I'll set aside time like once a month to look at like the next month and plan those things out. Just planning is super really important. Plan your day, or else your day is just going to get filled up with stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
You mentioned about getting feedback from others, but do you get feedback from yourself? Is there a way to audit yourself? I mean, if you're a leader in a company, for instance.
You can ask your people, ask your leadership team, do like a 360 evaluation, or you can just ask them, like, how am I doing? What can I do to support you? How is my communication with you? You can ask for that feedback. You have to create the environment. That's part of the culture. You have to create the environment that feedback is valued, and that feedback will be seen in a positive light. And I am always, anyone ever gives me feedback, I'm always like, thank you so much. You have something stuck on your face. Thank you so much for telling me that. I really appreciate. I always like want disarm them and make them feel that that's okay to give me feedback.
Is that a sign? Do you think getting feedback's a sign of maturity?
Oh, absolutely. You have to be like a vulnerable and open to that. Like you're not going to improve. You're not open to improving if you're not open to feedback.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. That's what I'm still learning. I'll be honest. It's tough. It's here. It's hard to hear what you don't do great and how to because I mean feedback. The whole point is like you don't want people just telling you what you're doing great. You're actually almost asking for like what you're not doing great in a sense.
Oh yeah, but I want to be treated just like everybody else, and that's come from the Navy too that I picked up on, which is STE, set the example, and that to me is like one of my biggest leadership things that I follow. Because like I'm gonna wear the uniform just like you, I'm gonna do the task just like you, I want to be held to the same standards. I don't like this. I never like double standards of I'm special because I'm in this position. Type of thing. It's just like, no, I want to be treated the same. I want to have the same standards. Because then I go to you and I say, I'm doing it, you can do it.
Yeah.
And that to me becomes like super powerful. Like you can't say like, oh, I can't do that if I'm willing to do what I'm asking you to do.
Yes.
I'm asking you to do something dirty, and I'll do that dirty thing too.
I gotcha. I love that. Speaking of that, and you personally, so you had 2 kids and you were single fathers or mothers that are entrepreneurs that are in that point where you were at when you first got there. You know what the struggle was. The struggle was real at that time. What did that struggle look like having kids, and how did you have enough energy and time blocking to get out of that? I know we briefly covered that, but I think there's a lot of single people with kids now. That's a big thing for my generation. People got married young. It didn't work out for them. Their kids are teenagers. You're not alone.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's very common, actually.
Yeah, it's challenging. You have to prioritize. You have to prioritize your work. You have to prioritize your family, and you have to figure out what's important in both spheres. And then you got to figure out at certain times like what's more important, and then you just got to like balance that schedule. Like I would drop one kid off early, and he was like 15 minutes early to school, and the school would complain, and I just ignored them because I had to drop them off because I had to get the other kid to the other school, and because like everything was like timed. How I had the energy, I have no idea when I look back because I was like so really really tired all the time. But you have to prioritize because I just had to get done in a day in like 6 hours or 7 hours worth of time at work. I didn't take work home. I didn't work on weekends. I didn't work on vacation. I was too tired to doing that stuff. And then you just got to figure out at home, like prioritize, give the kids their tasks. They got to sweep the floor. They got to make their bed. They didn't really make their bed that much, but they did empty the dishwasher. They did put stuff away. They did their own laundry. So I taught them how to do the laundry. I didn't have a housekeeper, but we kept the house clean. I had food on the table every night. We didn't go out because money was tight. So I had dinner on the table every night.
Wow, I don't know how you do. I mean, this sounds almost impossible. Did they ever ask about mom? And I mean, was there any personal?
Yeah, mom was
stuff
she moved to the East Coast, and then they would go on the long the fall break, spring break, and Christmas, all the breaks that they would go back. They would go back a week to go spend with her, and then most of the summer that they would spend with moms. But then I dealt with them just during the week and doing all the stuff that you got to do.
Was that hard on you to like be married, have kids, and then all of a sudden separate? I mean,
that was like the worst thing in my whole life.
Really?
Oh yeah, that was like the lowest point. Like because it was my second marriage, and it was just really devastating that it didn't work out, and we just couldn't get along. And
was it communication?
Yeah, we just started separate, going different ways, having different values on what we wanted, and then just the communication broke down, and then we tried to work on it. We tried, it just didn't work out. So it just became apparent that it was just better to go separately, and then eventually I became the single dad at that point. We did like the half and half for a few years, and then then I wound up with the kids.
Wow. I just had another CEO on a couple weeks ago, GA, and he was married for 32 years, and he did the same thing as you. And the funny part was, he's like, we're better communicators now than we were when we were in our marriage. If we had only worked on this now, post-marriage. I don't know if you went through that or not.
I am not a better communicator with if I have to communicate with my ex, I do, but I don't really need to communicate anymore. But I am definitely a better communicator now, because you asked me that question about patience. I definitely have a lot more patience now. I really had to. The key is to like go through this really dark period after that happens, and then really like be introspective and like really try to figure out like, what do I own in this whole process? Like, and then focus on me, because I can't focus on the other person. It doesn't really matter what the other person did or didn't do. It's like, I got to own, like, what was my reaction to these things? What do I own in this process? What can I have done better on? What did I hold on to too tightly? What do I need to let go? What do I need to learn to let go? And that's part of that is having patience and understanding what things you can control and you can't control, and most things you can't control. So, and that really carries over to business as well, because I can't control my employees. I can lead them and tell them what I want. I can inspire them and be clear on what the expectations are. I can praise them when they do those things. I can punish them if need be, like by firing them if I have to. I don't really like to do that. I don't really believe in like punishment at work. I like to like be more appreciative and offer the positive reinforcement. But yeah, that's what I learned going through that, like what I owned and how I can communicate better, how I can understand who I am and what my needs are, is like, because we've all been programmed from early age. Everything that comes out as adults was already programmed by the time we're like 5.
Right.
It's already in there. And you got to look like, what are these tapes telling us that we've learned, and how can I unlearn?
Well, I want to ask you about that. So regrets versus lessons. Is there a point in somebody's life where they're growing personally, and instead of looking at the regrets in life, have you turned those into lessons?
Well, regrets are really, Daniel Pink was one of the peak performers in Vistage, and talked about the power of regret. It's like super helpful, because it really helps you to understand what's important to you. If you regret something, then it was really important. So now I can make a better decision in the future. Asking myself, do I do A or do I do B? And which will I regret more? Doing it or not doing it? And then that helps you make a better decision. And if you've had that experience that I regretted something, it helps you make that decision in the future.
Yeah. What are you currently working on now on yourself?
What am I working on? Being the best chair that I can be for my members. They're really trying to like show up better in my one-to-ones, being a good listener for them. How can I help them better on the challenges, especially now that we have tariffs on, tariffs off, or it looks like we might be going into recession, the downturns. Some of our members are having downturns. So how can we provide value for that? What I did was, with other chairs in San Diego, we came up with like a discussion, and I have an AI. We used an AI bot to kind of pull it all together from our discussion that we had. I put my notes into that of like dealing with the tariffs, like what can we do? And I did the same thing to create like a discussion point topics for my members around the recession. What can we do to recession proof to get ready for that? Which is like basic things like, save your capital. Don't make big expenditures right now. Hold on to as much cash as you can. Make sure you have multiple lines of, access to credit, like 2 different bank accounts. Every business should have 2 bank accounts, because you never know if one bank might have a problem. I remember that money in Silicon Valley Bank.
That's a great tip.
Last year.
Yes.
He didn't make payroll, and he couldn't access his money. Like literally had to rely on, get ready to rely on investors to provide him money for that. So you want to have money in both places. You want to make sure you have a line of credit right now.
Oh,
if things are good, you want to get your line of credit, maximize your line of credit.
That's a really good tip. I had the wrong address in Wells Fargo. They sent me supposedly a letter to the wrong address. They shut down my bank account completely. Payroll was due the next day. I said, I've been with you guys for 4 generations now. I had the wrong address. You didn't bother calling me to let me know that you're going to shut down my whole business bank account. I mean, I had AR, AP galore accounts hooked up to that bank account after 10 years. So I know firsthand that that's a good tip.
Another tip is if you're a small business, you need to be with a small bank. You need to be with a community bank.
Interesting.
A community bank who you go in there and you talk to the banker, and they know who you are. They know your name. You have their phone number. They have your phone number. And if there's an issue, that they're going to call you and tell you that type of thing. One of the benefits of Vistage, like we had Endeavor Bank, and they helped out all the Vistage members in San Diego got the PPP money. And we had the senior leadership in Endeavor Bank was calling the Vistage chairs to tell them which of their members had applied or had not applied over weekends.
Wow.
To tell them, get this application in by Monday. And then, working with that. And then the bigger banks, you just become a number and they're not going to do that for you.
Wow.
So you need to have the relationship. If you're going to have two accounts, have one account with a big bank, maybe that you're getting those big bank benefits type of thing, but you also want to have an account with a small local bank.
You probably get more approvals and probably better rates from a smaller bank.
Yes, you will.
Yeah.
You're going to get better approvals because they're going to look at you as a local entity that's somewhere that they want to invest in the local community, and they're going to look at you with a local community-based eye. And I've talked to the bankers, and they tell me that
they'll take more risk.
They'll take more risk if they
Yeah.
understand your
Yeah.
story, as opposed to like the bigger banks. They're just going down a checklist, and you fit in their profile of what they're looking for right now. And the bigger banks in the 08, 09 recession, they returned the credit off. So you might have a $50K credit, and all of a sudden they turn it off, and they say, no.
Oh.
You don't have it anymore. So like one of the strategies which I've heard is you get a credit from one bank and you put it in another bank.
Wow.
So you take, if you have 100, take money out of one bank and just park the money there, pay the interest. You're paying the interest, but that's just like, it's an insurance to make sure you have the capital.
So I have no debt in my businesses, and I have, I have a nice little nest egg. Do you think I should still get a line of credit? Is that something
you definitely need a line of credit.
Really?
Oh, absolutely. Everyone needs to have a line of credit.
Well, who in San Diego would you recommend?
I would look at one of the small banks.
Like San Diego Credit Union or something like that?
Something like that, yeah.
Really?
The smaller banks that are going to know your name and are going to appreciate you when you walk in.
That's a great tip. I haven't heard that one before. Thank you, Jim. That's amazing. I will take that.
You need to be able to make sure you can cover like 2-3 payrolls, because you just
Right.
never know when one of your clients is not going to pay you.
The AR's been tough recently. That's a whole
you
nother
just don't
thing.
know when.
I can't believe it.
Not getting that check in and having a problem with payroll just causes all sorts of stress.
Yeah.
And if you can have a line of credit, and I'm not saying take a line of credit just to spend the money when it might be you're just throwing bad money after in a situation when the business is going down.
Yeah.
I'm saying like, okay, yeah, the client is late in paying. I know why they're late, but I don't have the check, but that 25K, 50K line of credit can just fill in for that payroll period. And now I don't have to worry. I don't have to deal with that stress of doing that and all the fire drill that goes along with it.
What kind of rate would be acceptable for a 50 to 100K loan, do you think, in today's market?
I can't.
7%, 10%?
I think they're less than that now. I think
Really?
I think so, but I'm not sure.
I guess Prime's at what, like 4.25 or something like that.
I'm not that versed on it right now.
Yeah. I do think the tariffs have been a big issue. Look, I will be honest. My business has been really slow the last couple of months, and I've talked to other business leaders because I've been doing content for many businesses in San Diego the last 18 years. It's been slow for almost everybody I've talked to. Maybe not AI. I mean, maybe AI has been the one that's like growing in leaps and bounds, but yeah, the tariff thing.
It's the wait and see. Everything's wait and see, which is like the worst.
The uncertainty.
Thing
The uncertainty is crazy right now. And some of it, I'm like, was it necessary? I don't know. I don't want to get too deep into that, but what a crazy world we live in. I just hope that everything settles down and there is some certainty. I don't know if there's certainty with much right now, to be honest. Not just tariffs, but AI and innovation, and it's a very uncertain world.
Yeah, you take like those changes, those dislocations, and then you throw these tariffs on top of it, which is like a self-inflicted.
Yeah, I agree.
Or at least you have more control over that, and you create even more uncertainty. That's why and we're just seeing the tip of that now, because the ships are not coming into LA Long Beach, and they're coming in with less goods, and the time for Christmas orders is now. Or past now, it's probably April for the stuff to show up in, say, September, October, November for Christmas time. So we're going to see like empty shelves, and it should be interesting to see what happens when, you go into a Walmart and there's like shelves that are empty back in like, COVID days when we sort of like, you'd go and there'd be no toilet paper.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's going to be mass amounts,
Right.
but it's going to be interesting because we're used to like stores being full.
Yeah.
And when you go into a store and the shelves are not full, I'm interested to see what that's psychologically going to tell
Going to
people.
cause panic buying and
Yeah,
other
they're
things.
going to
Well, it's interesting. I have a couple clients that do retail in my studio, and one of them had to pay the 145% tariff because they had to place their order right then and there. So it was 145%, totally destroyed their margin. They make no profit almost now.
you're spinning your wheels.
And now it's dropped to 30. So if they just would have waited, 3 weeks, they would have paid 115% less tariff.
That's part of that uncertainty. A lot of people just have been waiting to order stuff. Yeah.
I mean, they were crying because that's all they own is this apparel business, and they manufacture and produce in China. And they said, we had to pay a 145% tariff. They literally had to pay it. I didn't know if it was real or not.
Yeah.
But I had a couple clients actually say that, and I was like, wow, that's
Now, if it stayed a level playing field that everyone had to pay 145%,
Yeah, right.
that makes it easier because one of the things, your suggestions is raise your prices. And it's
Right.
better to be quick to raise your prices rather than late. Because you want to raise your prices when people expect the prices to go up. Because it makes sense to them of why the price is going up. You don't want to be a lagger and like holding out and not raising your prices and then wait till like the economy is more certain and now everyone else is not raising their prices, but you're stuck because you didn't raise your prices. And now I got to raise my prices with perhaps a bigger jump later on because now you're going to stand out with you raising the price. If that makes sense, like.
That makes total sense. I want to end with a couple things from you, recommendations. Okay, 3 books that an entrepreneur or a successful small to medium sized business owner. Give me 3 books that you highly recommend.
Well, The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team by Patrick Lencioni is really good. I like How to Know Somebody by David Brooks. It's a really good book, just talking about connecting with people and how we talked about like the disconnect with people with AI and it's like how to know people is like really helpful. Another third book is the Stephen Covey, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People is just like, it's just a foundational book and everyone references that book and it's really good for at all levels. Yeah. Understanding that because they have the teen version of it and all, but just understanding those. I always refer back to think first to listen to understand before you talk type of thing, and then sharpening the saw. That's what we do in Vistage. That is an important. It's the 7 habit. Is sharpening the saw. Is taking time out to get better at your craft over and over again. Is really, really important. Everyone needs to take time away from what they're doing to like get better at what you do. Yeah. You can't just run your life on your inbox because the inbox will never end.
Right, and you got to upskill yourself. And a thing I like to do. I mean, I'm a baby entrepreneur, but I want to run to the next thing sometimes. And luckily, I've kept doing what I've been doing. I've wanted to, but I haven't done it. But I feel like if you build a big skill up and then you run, you have to start all over again. I mean, it's tough. Yes. You have to upskill yourself in what you're in, or you need to make a decision to pivot then, right? I mean, Rocky, remember 7 Habits? That we just heard that last episode too. That's a common book. My mentor, it's his favorite book too.
It's so foundational that you're at a huge disadvantage if you don't read it. And if you've read it, you need to pull it out like every 5 years or so just to look at, at least run through it. Because just the concepts in there are just so fundamental that people bring up.
I love that. 5 things you can't live without. This could be people, persons, virtues. 5 things that you deem just these are what I need in life. It's what I operate on.
Well, my wife and my kids is really, really important. I call my mom almost every day during the week. I really enjoy those conversations. She just turned 90. I was back in New York for her birthday party, which was great.
Oh, happy birthday, Ma. That's a big birthday.
It's a big birthday. We had a great celebration. That was fun. The water. I've always lived near the water, so I really like going to the beach, and that calming effect of being on the water is like really important. I love my books.
So those are good.
And there's one thing when I moved in with my wife 3 years ago, I said, the one thing I need is my books. I'm not getting rid of my books. She said, you can keep all your books. And then I showed up and like my books didn't fit. So we had to create more bookcases. But she knew she couldn't tell me to get rid of the books because she told me I could have all my books.
So you went for a third time. Third time's a charm.
Third time's absolutely a charm, yes.
And you probably learned some great lessons to bring to this relationship.
I did. I'm just so much a better partner. A better communicator, more patient.
Better connection too.
Better connection.
How'd you meet her, can I ask?
Online.
Okay.
Coffee meets bagel.
Okay.
Yeah, it was great.
Wow, good for you.
Yeah.
There's, I've been on those sites. I'm single and I'm just like, oh gosh, this is a lot. But maybe I'll try that one. Thank you.
No, that was good.
Okay, so Jim, before we wrap up, this is your camera. I want you to leave our audience with what you would like. What advice do you have if people either want to join Vistage, or what just advice in general for business owners right now with the tariffs and the uncertain times? Give us a 1 to 2 minute piece of advice before we leave.
I'm reading a book, Grit by Angela Duckworth, and she's interviewing people of like what it takes to get to the top of your game, and you have to have that persistence and that grittiness to do that. She interviewed the coach for a swim team for the Olympics, and in order to be an Olympic swimmer, like what do you need to do? And she asked them like the key. And they talked about like getting up there early in the morning and just doing the laps over and over again. And then the coach said the real key is to be on a team, because it's hard to wake up at 4 a.m. It's possible to do it and to get there, but being on the team and having other peers that can, get you there, can cheer you on, can be competitive. That's like really the key to having that success and being at that Olympic level. And if you want to see your business get to an Olympic level or start approaching that higher level, out of the lifestyle realm, into the realm of like just being the top of your game, it takes a village to get there. It takes a group of people who can push you to get there. And Vistage is a great vehicle where you connect with other CEOs. You're not isolated anymore. You can trial balloon your issues. You can pressure test them with your peers. You can get insight from them. And that to me is like the really key that's going to differentiate you between your competitors, is to be able to get that insight and perspective of things that you can't even think about on your own. And that will position you to be a better leader and have a better result. So I would invite you to come investigate Vistage. You can come to my website at jimristuccia.com. That's JIMRISTUCCIA.com. And you can see my story. You can see about my group, about Vistage that I have on there. And I would love to have a conversation with you about your business and your goals and how Vistage and I can help you get there.
Thank you for joining us for this episode with Jim. And if you want to reach him, make sure to check out the description below where his information will be. And be good to yourself. Keep trying hard. Be good to others. And we'll see you next episode.